This is going to be a quick video on how to apply resin epoxy to hardboard panels painting. These are hardboard panels. You can hear that sound. All right, this is hardboard and wooden frame. So it could be canvas, I guess, but probably want to support it a little bit. I've only done it on hardboard. So real quick, this is the type of resin epoxy I'm using. You can get this off of, let me get the glare off of that. You can get this off of Amazon for about 65 bucks for a total of 1 gallon, which will do, you can see all these paintings, should do, was it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, it'll do 11 paintings or so, because each one of, like this painting right here takes about 2 cups of resin at the most. So you can do, at 2 cups, it's 8 paintings. First off, this first segment, we'll be talking about preparing your area. You notice this is a huge 4x8 work table in my garage, and I've got it covered with 2 sheets of large roll paper that you can see right here, right? So what you're gonna do is double layer it, because you can see that as this drips, I've already done 1 batch of paintings. As this drips, it kind of seeps through. It doesn't necessarily stick, but you don't want to take a chance, because this resin epoxy, keyword being epoxy, which is a glue, right? It's a plastic glue. Once it dries, that's it. There's no separating it. So you want to make sure that you protect whatever surface you put this on. And you also want to prepare the paintings, make sure that there's nothing on them. You've wiped them off as much as you can, dust them, support them on something so that when you start brushing it on, it's not going to start moving the panel, the canvas. And make sure that your area, I've got a propane heater over there. All right, you see this in the shot. You see that blue flame? That's a DeWalt battery powered propane burner heater. You want, like my garage right now is probably 75 degrees, maybe 78, and it's into December. So it's nice and warm in here. You don't want it too hot or too cold. Just right, just like Cinderella, or not Cinderella, Goldilocks and 3 Bears. Anyway, so, okay. And I'm gonna end this section and I'll show you how I mix that up. When you mix epoxy, or resin epoxy, follow whatever the manufacturer tells you to do. This brand has you mix both of what you want, which is equal parts, and I'm using the whole half gallon of each, the hardener and the resin. You're gonna pour both of them in a bucket, 1 bucket, and mix it up for 5 minutes, and then you're gonna take it from that bucket, scrape it out, put it into another bucket, mix it up again. And that's to make sure that consistency and really, really good mixed up. Don't go overboard. I don't go to Lowe's. Lowe's has like mixing buckets that are clear and marked and all this other stuff, because these are one-time use. You can't really reuse these. Once you get the resin in it and it dries and you try to reuse it again, you're going to end up with flakes of resin in whatever you're pouring. So I got these at the Dollar Tree, which is a store that everything is $1. So this is $1, this is $1. I got this, which is just I think they call it a barbecue brush. You'll notice it has like little fingers. I use this to spread it on the painting. And then I'm mixing a cup. So what I'm gonna do is I'll mix it, and once I'm done mixing them up, I pour it into this and pour it onto the painting. This was also a Dollar Tree, $1. So when you do mix this stuff up, you'll notice you're going to have typically one of these two is going to be thicker and thinner than the other one. This is the hardener, which is very thin. This is the actual resin, which is very thick. It's almost like syrup. Whereas this is like, sugar water or whatever. What you're going to want to do is put the thin stuff in first inside your bucket, and then you add the thick to the thin. That way, the thick is suspended in the liquid, as opposed to if you put the thick in first, the thick is really going to be sticking to the bucket. and it's going to be very hard. You're going to have an inconsistent mix, and if it's an inconsistent mix, all that good stuff, your resin, you're going to have spots where your resin doesn't get cured fully. The trick, of course, is getting this, and also I forgot to mention, you're just going to use a regular paint stirrer that you can get typically free, or for, you know, not very much at a store. So now add the thick stuff. The key with this is to get it out as quick as you can. So what I do is squeeze the whole bottle, let the air go back in it, squeeze it again, because as soon as the two things come together, the two liquids come together, it now does the chemical reaction of starting to cure. So as you're pouring this in here, try to mix this up so that you don't have anything sitting and you end up with little crystallized areas that have already done the chemical mixing bond thing, whatever it is. But I hate that this is thin. There's no way to, because I could try putting in hot water or something, the bucket or no, the thing, and maybe it'll thin. So once that's done, I'm going to start a timer. I'm going to shut the camera off. I'm going to start a timer for 5 minutes and mix it up. I'll be back. So I've been mixing this for 5 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is transfer it to another bucket. And this is to ensure everything is thoroughly mixed up. And then when you transfer it, and this is just for this maker, make sure you scrape it all out, which is just on the sides and the bottom. There's probably a good cup of resin, which when you start to run low is very valuable. Okay, what I'm going to do now is mix that up for 3 minutes. You're not going to see me in this shot because I'm going to be pouring out the resin onto the painting. I wanted to show that all I do is take the bucket, pour it into this measuring cup. What I think this is going to use, which this will probably be about 1.5 cups, something like that, 2 cups at the most. You want to try to cover as much as it's not going to be completely thick, as in it's all over the place without any air or the canvas being exposed. You're going to get most of it. So once you've done that, take your barbecue brush and just start spreading it. You want to try to work quickly because I have a lot of paintings to do. I have like 10 paintings to do, and it doesn't dry super quick, but once it starts to get thick, it's very hard to get the air bubbles out of it once it gets to a specific thickness. And that's what you want to do, is get it spread out as quick as you can, so that then, you know, after about 5 minutes, which will give the air bubbles that are in the resin time to come to the surface, and then you take either a propane torch or a heat gun, which is what I use, is a heat gun, and you're going to just blow the heat gun or the torch on the liquid resin. What that's going to do is bust all the air bubbles so that you don't get any air bubbles in your painting. Okay, so once I've done that, you don't need to worry about making it level and everything else. It's going to do that on its own as long as it's level. So what I do is I take it, I just kind of smear the sides with some of the resin. This is going to get it on the side borders. So I do that all the way around the painting. Making sure it's good and wet. Realize that this is all going to drip down, so you don't have to be super uniform and all this other stuff. You just need to make sure that it's on there. Once you make sure it's on there, move to the next painting. But try to move as quick as you can, because you don't. I opened a gallon of this, and that's all I got. I don't have any extra, and if I don't have enough for all of them, it's really going to be bad, because this has to go in a restaurant in 3 days. So, and that's about it. After you put the torch on it, you're going to let it sit for probably 6 to 7 hours, 8 hours, something like that. And it's going to get hard enough to where you can move it. And then also you're going to end up with drips underneath on the edges of the borders. What I do is I sand those down once it gets to hard plastic state. Make sense? Okay. This is where I sign out. Thanks everybody. Have a good one.